This is Amy Wentley with Chai Knuckles Knitting, and this is episode 2021-9, Zahavi, Picking Up for the Collar. I'm doing an online class on the Zahavi Pullover. The design is by Emily Greene and it's distributed by Brooklyn Tweed. And right now I am working on picking up stitches for the cowl or the collar. And for the collar I have two choices. I can either make a cowl or a band. For my size 1, we can for the cowl, I need to pick up 44 stitches along the back, and I need to pick up 72 stitches along the front of the collar. For the band, I need to pick 38 stitches up from the back and 64 stitches from the front of the collar. And I've decided to do the band for mine. So these are the stitch counts I'm going to follow. Now before I get started, what I do is I put pins in the place I'm going to pick up to kind of bisect and break up the picking up so that I can be sure that I do it evenly. So this corresponds to this. So I'm going to be picking up I set some markers on here. I put one in the middle of the back, I put one in the middle of the front, one at each shoulder, and then I wanted to bisect this curve here. Excuse the wonky stitches here. I was practicing on picking up earlier and it just pulled those out of shape, so ignore that. And so I want to bisect this. This is 32 stitches. I'd like to make it 16 and 16. So I kind of eyeball it and I put a marker in the same place because this is symmetrical. And so now I've broken it up to 16, 16, 16, 16, 19, 19. Okay, in order to start picking up, the pattern says I need to start at the right shoulder. So if the sweater is facing me, it's this shoulder on my left when it's facing me. When I'm wearing it, it's my right shoulder. So I'm going to be starting here. Now let me spread this sweater out, and then let me, I'm going to zoom in a little bit for you because I think you really might like to see a little closer. Okay, so let me zoom the camera in and then we'll get started. Okay, all right, so for the back here, what I have is I'm picking up actually a vertical columns of stitches. And so I'm going to pick up 1 to 1 a new stitch for every stitch along here, except if I count the stitches along here, I realize I have 22 stitches and I only have to pick up 19 of them along this section here. So I'm going to end up skipping 3 stitches, and I think I'm going to skip these purl stitches. Probably 1, 2, 3 here. But otherwise I'm going to pick up 1 to 1 every stitch between these two markers. And I'm going to do two things. I'm going to use my working needle. It's a 16-inch circular needle. It's in the smaller needle size for the collar. And now I'm going to hold that in my right hand. In my left hand I'm going to hold a DPN, and this is going to help me pick up the stitches. And then I have my ball of yarn here. So I'm going to pick up the first stitch, and the first stitch is going to be this first purl bump under the marker at the right shoulder. And when I pick up stitches, I generally knit through the back loop to twist the stitch to get a firmer stitch and to not have any little holes around my collar. And you just fold that new yarn in half, slip it over the edge of the needle, and pull it through. And that's stitch 1. So I'm going to grab my working yarn. Don't grab your tail. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. Okay, if you look at the next stitch, we've got 3 V stitches and a purl, 3 V stitches and a purl. So you see the V. The V has 2 legs. I am going to go under the right hand leg. I'm going to knit through the back loop, and that's the next stitch picked up. Okay. Again, I'm going to pick through the right hand leg of the next V. So you can see the V here is like this. I'm putting my needle right down in the middle of the V and under that right leg, and then pick up through the back, knit through the back loop. That's 2. Then I've got my last of the 3 V stitches there. I'm going to pick up the V under the bind off, the right leg of the V, work through the back loop, and now I have 4 stitches picked up. I'm going to go ahead and skip the purl stitch. That's my first one I'm going to skip. I'm going to come here, and here is the V again. There's the V. I'm going to pick up the right leg of that V and work through the back loop. So when I say right leg, when you have a V stitch like this is the right leg and this is the left leg. So the next V stitch, I'm going to put my needle into the right leg. I'm going to knit through the back loop. And there you go. And then please excuse the banging in the background. My husband just came home from the grocery store and he's unloading everything, so I don't want to interrupt that. And so we're going to knit through the back loop. There we go. And that's 3 more stitches. And I'm going to go ahead and skip that purl bump again. That's my second one I'm skipping. And then insert through the right leg. And I'm going to keep doing this until I get to the left shoulder, because I'm going to have to tell you a little bit differently what to do over there, because on the back here we're picking up from vertical columns of stitches. Okay, I'm going to skip one more purl here. This is the last purl I'm going to skip. And so we are going to, when we turn around and come around to the left shoulder, we're going to be coming around and we're going to start picking up some stitches that are oriented horizontally to what we're picking up. And so I want to show you how to do that. So I'm going to continue to pick up stitches all along the back neck edge here. Okay, so I will, when I come back to you, I'm going to have 38 stitches picked up all the way over to the left shoulder. So I'm going to pause briefly and I will be right back. Thank you. Hello, I'm back. So this is what I've done. I've picked up 19 stitches from the right shoulder to the middle of the back, 19 stitches from the middle of the back to the left shoulder. Now I'm going to turn around and I'm going to pick up from the front. This is going to be a little bit different because we've got a different sort of intersection going on here. So remember when we picked up the back here, we pretty much picked up every stitch along the edge because these were vertical columns and we were picking up 1 each. Over here, the vertical columns are ending here at the shoulder, and we're going to be picking up stitches along the edge here perpendicular to these stitches instead of from the top of the stitches. So from here to here, while things are going to be perpendicular, we're going to actually need to skip a stitch in every 3 stitch set. So we'd pick up 2, skip 1, 2, skip 1, 2, skip 1, 2, skip 1. And that's because our row gauge is different than our stitch gauge. Once we get right here, we're going to start picking up the tops of the vertical stitches again, 1 for 1 along here. Okay, so what's going to happen is I need to pick up a total of 32 stitches here. So these are groups of 4 stitches. It's 3 knit stitches and a purl stitch. And so right here, this is a middle stitch. This is 1 stitch, 2 stitch, and then we have sets of 4. So let me count the sets of 4 between where we go perpendicular and where we work parallel. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 sets of 4. That's 20. Plus these extra 2 stitches, that's 22. I'll be picking up along here, 1 for 1. That's going to leave me 10 stitches I need to pick up perpendicularly here from the top to here. So I'll do 2 skip 1, 2 skip 1, 2 skip 1, 2 skip 1, 2 skip 1 along there. So follow along with me. So I've got my stitches from the back are on my working needle back here. I have my DPN to help me pick up my stitches. This can be any sharp object. It can be a darning needle. It can be another circular needle. It just doesn't matter. So make sure you don't pick up your tails. Make sure you're working with your working yarn. And I'm going to come here to the first stitch along this, what we'll call the perpendicular section. And I'm going to be picking up, I choose to pick up from this purl row here. You might not have a purl row there on your size. I'm not sure how the math comes out. If not, you can just pick up a V. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a purl stitch, and each one of these purl bumps back here is a purl stitch. So I'm going to pick up the first one and bring my working yarn around, working needle around, and I'm going to knit through the back loop again as I have been all along. And this is my working yarn here. Just trying to orient things so you can see and I can see and everybody can see. Okay, so that's one stitch. And actually I want to take this marker out here and I'm going to put it before the stitch I just made to make it easier for me to count, so I don't have to go back and count all the way. I just know from here I started picking up. So that's one, and then I'm going to pick up the next purl bump. So if you can see, let me get this the camera where you can see. This is the next purl bump right here. Okay, and I'm going to knit through the back loop, tug, because things are stretching a little bit around that shoulder seam. So when I get to the next one, I'm going to skip the next purl bump. So if you look here, this one here is the next purl bump. I'm going to go for the one after that. So I've got 2 so far. This is 3. Knit through the back loop. I'm going to do the next purl bump right next to it. That's 4. And then I'm going to skip a purl bump. That's the one I'm going to skip. I'm going to get the one next to it. There we go. That's 5. 6. The next purl bump. And then I'm going to skip one the next time. So I'm going to skip a purl bump and then get the next purl bump. So there you have it. Let me shift things a little bit here. Okay, so that's 7, correct? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to get the next purl bump, not skip. Okay, not skip this time. And then, so that's 8. I'm going to skip a purl bump, and I'm going to do 9 and 10, and then I'm going to get to the point where we're going to start picking up stitches like we did for the back. 9, 10, and we're going to be doing that, picking up stitches from a vertical column. Okay, so that's my 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, picked up along that edge perpendicularly. And then we're going to start picking up stitch for stitch all the way until we get to the middle marker here. And I did bisect this, so it's supposed to be 32 stitches from the middle of the neck to the shoulder. And I wanted to do 16 and 16. So I've got 10 stitches picked up here. So I need to pick up 6 more stitches. Do I? 1, 2... So I approximately want to pick up 6 more stitches between here and the next stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the right hand leg of this column of stitches. So I may have to fit a little bit more than the stitches I have vertically there. So that's 1, going to pick up the top of the next column and through the back loop. That's 2. I'm going to pick up the next column, that's 3. And I'm going to pick up that purl column, that's 4. So here's the purl stitches here. I'm going to pick up a purl bump and knit through the back loop, and then I pick up one more. It's the right leg of this where the stitch marker is, and that actually took me to 15, not 16, but I'm happy with that. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. So I'm just going to make up that extra stitch somewhere in here. And this is going to be, I've got to get 16 stitches in here, and this is, okay, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Looks like if I pick up the top stitch of every column here to this marker, I'm going to be able to do 16 stitches. So I just have to, I'll just go ahead and count this middle stitch here. We'll make that 16, and we should be able to fit, or that'll be 17 total all along here, which is 32 for that whole area. So I am just going to go ahead and I will continue to do that. And I'm not going to bore you watching every single step of this because you've seen all the basic concepts. Go back, rewind, replay if you need to. I'm going to go ahead and finish picking up all the stitches along here. Same thing when I get to the other side, and I'm starting to work perpendicularly again. I'm going to pick up the purl bumps in that column again, skipping every 3 stitches, skipping 2, knit 2 stitches, skip 1, 2 stitches, skip 1, 2 stitches up along here until I get to the end. At that point, I'm joining in the round, and I'm going to start to work either, you know, my cowl or my band, and in my case I chose to do the band. So this would be the last of the Zahavi videos, I think. So I would like to thank you for being here on this journey with me. I hope you enjoyed this sweater. I hope the information was helpful to you, and I hope you come back and look at some more of my videos sometime. ChiKnucklesKnitting.com. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.